love the explanations, Eva. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pinard. I'm a historical fiction and fantasy author, and you're here on my channel. So you're on
Margaret Pinard.
Booktube.
I'm a historical fiction and fantasy author, and
you're here on my channel. So you're on
Margaret Pinard.
Booktube.
I'm a historical fiction and fantasy author, and you're here on my channel. So you're on
Margaret
Pinard.
Booktube.
I'm a historical fiction and fantasy author, and
Where is it?
you're here.
Found it. Found the open tab. Excellent. Well, now I match my shirt. Welcome everybody. I unmuted a tab. You should never do that. We're here today on Wednesday to talk about some writer credentials. And what is it on this happy Wednesday? It is the middle of a fall reader drive. Now, you know what that sounds like. That sounds like a PBS special fundraiser, but this isn't raising funds. This is just asking you to follow for more information about my next book, which is very exciting. So I'm going to be giving information today about my background as a writer. So I've got a question in the live chat for those of you who are here to answer, but also I'm going to be trying to answer that question myself. The question in the live chat is, and I pinned it here, if I can scroll up, what trait does a historical novelist need above all to succeed? And we've got some smart answers here. So I'll go over those in just a second. But the greater context of this week is that I'm trying to guide people to sign up as a free follower so that they get notices for information about my upcoming novel, my fall novel. It's the first time I will have published anything since 2019, and I'm pretty excited. So I wanted to let people know, raise the flag, like there's a big thing going on, and I'm not going to hide my light under a bushel. I'm going to try to tell the people I know online. So there we go. The links will be in the description. I'm putting some free chapters of another book on Patreon and Ream to entice people over. But once you're subscribed there, you'll get updates about all the things that I'm deciding on for the new book, including title reveal, cover reveal, pre-order offer, and all that jazz. So that is the exciting stuff to come. Now, let me say hello to the chat and catch up and make sure that you can all hear me because I've already gone 3 minutes. Eva was here early giving smart-ass answers, which I love, but the trait that she came down on first was a level of intelligence required to either write or hire a ghostwriter for a historical fiction novel. Interesting. Yeah, silly questions get silly answers. And then she did an important thing. She asked, what is success in this question? And that's always important for every writer to define for themselves. She's got some options here. Is it completing a novel? Is it having readers? Is it having so many readers people know your name, fame, money, all of the above? She based hers on A, which is completing a novel. And then I loved, this is what I was chuckling about when I went live, I went from A to 2 because B with the parentheses is happy face. And I love that you knew that before you pressed enter because I wouldn't have remembered that. Anita is here. Hello, AF Stewart. Her answer, a historical novelist needs patience. Lots of patience. I like that. That's a good answer. That's not the one that I'm hiding in my head. So I'm going to see if anyone can guess the one I'm hiding in my head. Oh, I got it. Nice. Eva's second answer, youth. If the novelist is old enough, would it be historical? That depends on when they're writing about and your definition of historical. That's true. We have Katpa Rosales here. Hello, hello, welcome. You with real answers. Ha ha ha. We've got Annalicia Anderson. Hi, everyone. Welcome. By smart, she means snarky. I mean like smart alecky. It's all good. I love it. I got here early. I got a partial point. Okay. So fall reader drive. The whole week we're trying to entice people in so that they'll know when my novel comes out and be in on all the fun details as they drop in the next 3 months. But what is today's live stream specifically about? It's about writer credentials. So what I have in my outline here is, what is this in the context of? So we have audiobooks on Patreon and Ream. We've got Sunday, I had my kickoff stream. We have Monday, I put the reading list for labor fiction, meaning in a broader sense, fiction that I love, that I recommend, that deals with class, conflict, and fighting for equality, and gives value to and features the struggles of the working class, etc. in history. So definitely loved those. I put those out on Monday. Tuesday was for real historical figures. So yesterday I put out a series of reels where I just plucked 3 of the real historical figures that I used in my novel and told you a couple tidbits about them and how they were going to be featured in the novel. So I put those out on Instagram as reels and on TikTok. And then I did the first one on YouTube Shorts this morning because I'm just spreading it around, seeing where it takes. But hopefully seeing a little bit of the names of people will, I don't know, intrigue, mystify, delight. And maybe I'll even get a few historians, I'm calling Cynthia, if Cynthia's in the vicinity, to, pick up on these threads and go, oh, and you know what he did, and you know what she said, and connect more things for me, because I love learning more, and that is a clue to my answer hidden in here. So that was Tuesday, and today it's writer credentials. So what is important? What do I need to do to prepare to succeed? What do I need to do as a writer to tell an important historical story? Because it's real, right? And I'm making a fictional account, but I'm treating something very important. And so I want to do it justice. And that's kind of what I'm talking about today. Hi, Rita. Hello, hello. Hello, Dee Dee. Welcome, guys. Oh, there we go. Lovely to see you. Oh, okay. Eva's jumping on one of my answers for the whole talk, but it's the last one. So hold on to your hats and I'll return to the passion. The one that I'm going to start with is practice. So in order to write well, you need to practice writing. Just like playing the piano, you need to practice piano. So this is where I explain I've written 6 books. The order in which I wrote them might indicate like skill level as I worked my way up, right? So I started with Memories Hostage. It's a historical mystery. It's a sort of spy thriller, very plot focused, and has a romantic subplot. So it's basically like what was in the core of me and wanted out. The very first novel that I wrote, like just channeling, right? And so that's set in the 1880s, Victorian England, and lively cast of characters, got some interesting quirks, and yeah, so that was the first one. The second one, Dulcie's Legacy, is a young adult historical fantasy. So it's contemporary, but it's someone who goes back in time and then has to solve a mystery. So there's a bit of genre mashup there where I was playing with things. I was working some things out thematically, but also having a really fun time with a teenager going to high school, an outsider, and, like young love, because also romantic subplot. Look at who you're talking to. Then I started to be more serious. So I wanted to do something that was more engaging with historical stuff that I love to read. And that's when I started the trilogy Remnants. Now that is when I really started researching not just things here or there, but like everything that pours into a historical movement or social change, and how does it affect people. So Remnants is about a migratory pattern, if you want to get really neutral and erasure about it. Basically, it's treating the effects on an ordinary family in the islands of Scotland, the Highlands and Islands, of the enclosure movement and the Highland clearances and economic forces that are sort of the beginning of globalization and how that affects one family living on an island and how they stay together or try to. So that was like a big sort of cracking open of research abilities and writing abilities, because a series, my friends, is quite hard to figure out when you're a pantser, when you're a discovery writer. So that took a lot of work trying to figure out especially the second book. How much do you put in? How do you divide it? Plot stuff is not my favorite. So it was a lot of going back to the drawing board. So practice, practice, practice. And then the sixth book is a collection of short stories that was a lot more experimental and fun. And there are some historical elements, but it's basically what I already had in my back pocket and not a lot of heavy historical research. So backlist for anyone who is interested. Those are the 6 books that are already out. And what is coming is going to be another heavy historical fiction, less of a romantic subplot currently, but more of a social justice theme. So I'm very excited about that. And if you're interested in hearing one of those, a little teaser taster, the audiobook chapters that are up on Patreon and Ream and free until Saturday are the first couple chapters of Memories Hostage, which has quite a humdinger of a beginning. I'll just say amnesia is involved. So if you like a spy thriller and like that pulls on your jacket, definitely check that out. And then you'll be signed up and subscribed when I start dropping those details about my pub date, my title, my cover, and more. So excited about that. Eloise is here. Hello, friend. Welcome. And we've got a Rachel. Hello, hello. RK Stumbling Bear. Brown Girl Reading. Dee Dee says, wow, I'm impressed and jealous. You're going to make me blush again. The last time I blushed was the beginning of this stream when I had a tech issue. So we know it happens all the time. The first novel is called Memories Hostage. The amnesia, the memory. That's what we worked with. So that's on Patreon and Ream, first couple chapters, and I'll be using that as a benefit tier going on. But for now, for this week, for the reader drive, it is free for all the new followers. Okay. So the first thing, practice. The second thing, and if I'm going to imitate Eva, and then number two, how do I prepare myself to tell an important story is the research. So practice is for the writing craft, the pacing, the plot, the structure, the tension. Research is for the content. Like, do you have the motivation? Do you have the theme? Do you have the character at the depth of their beings, right? And, I love doing research because, and here's where I'll give the answer that was hiding in my head. To me, the thing you need most to be a successful historical novelist is curiosity. So if you're not curious about the world, if you're not curious about life and what happened and how it affects us today, I don't think you're able to write a book that is going to grab my attention. I don't know. Maybe someone can point to an example and try to refute me on this, but sipping hot cocoa, even though it's going to be like 100 tomorrow. It's okay. I'm living in Delulu land. This is the other thing. Curiosity and delusion. No, curiosity. So with research, I have a playlist actually, and I was going to pick this up for you guys. I have a playlist from February where when I was getting all my research ducks in a row, I went to Scotland. I traveled to archives, to museums. I took down titles. I did a lot of photo copying with my phone, and read a lot from libraries both here in Portland and around that I could get to in my system, to try to get details about the different people's lives or representative samples of characters' lives that I would be including. So I'm just looking at my Bitly here. I know it's in there somewhere. Community poll. June. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to keep going back. Where is my research playlist? Okay, maybe I just search the tag. Oh yeah. April, that's getting closer. Oh no, that's 2020. No. Okay, well, I will point you to it later. I have a research playlist that I can just look up and give you the long, ugly link to. Playlists. Research books and topics. All right. So I'll drop this into the chat. Research playlist. And basically, this was me compiling over several months sources where I couldn't get at home exactly. And so I was looking to find them abroad and also get inspired, right? So for research, I'm looking at a lot of books. I'm taking trips. I'm trawling the libraries and reading letters. So I took pictures, and I have to seek permission to share the pictures in whatever format I want to, which is a pain. But seeing what everyday objects looked like just gives you a different feel for what everyday life was like. And that's what I'm trying to put on the page. So when I went to the archives in the city of Glasgow, I was looking at how people did letters. Like, I know I've heard descriptions of you would write a booklet. Like, you would have one page, fold it in half, and have 1, 2, 3, 4 pages in a mini booklet of one piece of paper. And that's how people sent letters. Or I'm sure if you're a Jane Austen fan, you've heard people cross-writing, which is they write one direction, then they turn it sideways, and they write the other direction over the writing. And only if you know that person's writing really well will you be able to decipher it at all. I did see one of those, and I was like, there's no snowball's chance in hell I can decipher this. So that was more of a discovery of, okay, this is what it looks like. The booklets that people had for elections, one of the cool things was looking at different sides, different parties. Like the whip for each party would have a booklet, or not a booklet, like a full-on photo album type heavy paper, and they would tot up like how many people they could count on or how many people they had paid off, and try to count how many votes they had. Before 1833, it was very easy to count votes because there were so few before the Reform Bill. But seeing people make political calculations for their district so obviously was like, oh, okay, all right, we're living in a different time. It's not like now. You didn't get out the vote, like it was conversations in back rooms for sure. And of course that hasn't changed, but that was all it was. No door knocking, no, door hangers, no phone banking for sure. So details like that and research that gives you ambiance and vibes, dare I say, is one of the cool things for me, not only because it gives me inspiration, but because then I can drop in little things like that people who know will recognize and feel validated by. But if people don't know, that might spur them to research, or they might, put it in their pocket as, oh, people wrote letters weird back then. That's interesting. So job is done. My job is done. Let's see. I'm going to catch up on the chat. Eloise, did you record your own audiobook chapters? Yes, I did start out recording my own audiobook chapters, scary as that sounds. And I'm getting helpful tips and advice and technical help, as USAID would call it, technical assistance from our very own Kat Paul Rosales. So hopefully she'll be able to guide me to a better setup, and like I'll re-record and have them be available to people who have them now. So yeah. Hi, Jim. Jim is here. Curiosity. No. There's probably a second part of that proverb about killing the cat that validates me. So I'll let you go look that up and come back. Eva says, looking for an uncurious person to test this out. Yeah, they should be hard to find in the writing field, because I feel like so many writers are really curious, and that's what gives them the urge to write. Curiosity and imagination. Alicia is asking, how did you research? Did you read other books, look at old newspapers, talk to someone about their experience? Yes. So I'm writing about the 1830s in Glasgow, so I wouldn't be able to talk to anyone about the experience because they're all dead, but I always start with books. I mean, I start with Google searching for books, but then I'm in books. And when I read memoirs, biographies, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name now. Hobsbawm, like social histories, people who are social historians especially are like a gold mine, because they will name drop in their chapters. And I did not study British history outside of a couple years in high school and college. So when those names are dropped, that's okay, Google that. What does that mean? You know, it'll come up in the Oxford English Dictionary. It'll come up in whatever museum site or whatever, dictionary site. And then from there, I can say, is this relevant? Do I want to keep this, or is it not? And throw it out. So I definitely read lots of books. I did not look at newspapers in print in the hand. So what I was looking at in the archives were not newspapers, but personal papers. So account books, election books, personal correspondence. Yes. And then the newspapers that I did access, they were snippets that are microfilm captured on the screen. And so they're in data banks. And some of them are paid subscriptions, which I don't have. But a lot of the time they will have a preview, and then you can look it up another way, or at least get enough information about the event that is in the newspaper article and use that as much as you can. So great question. I love the research. That is really important. Margaret is actually 434 years old. I don't know what context that was in, but talking to people who are dead. Yeah. Rachel says, I drink hot cocoa any time of the year. That's another good indication. Good excuse, I should say, to have another sip. And writes memoirs. Solid life choice. Yes. Sometimes Margaret reminds me of a sister of mine, and I'm not sure how. They aren't a thing alike, but somehow, some part. Interesting. Adeshile writes, hello, dropping by to say hi. Appreciate that. Lovely to see you. I do have the research playlist I finally found, so in case anyone is looking for what I did back in February, where I went, what I did to prepare, and a little bit more like tidbits about those books and papers, that's where it would be. Jim says, I would love to have a cabinet of curiosities. I like that phrase. I'm not sure what curiosities you're alluding to, because some can be pretty gruesome. I hope that wouldn't be your choice, Jim. Oh, we've got a Gareth, Book Songs and Other Magic. Hi. I've made it. You're very welcome. Thank you for dropping in. We're about halfway through here. Cat Paw says, thanks for the shout out. If any other indie author wants help audio editing, hit me up. That is very generous. Much appreciated. And Gareth says, and you mentioned Hobsbawm straight away. Favorite historian. Oh, yay. There's another one I was trying to think of, and it's a less squirrely name, but it's not coming to me. So that's the one that came to me. But yeah, I like this one a lot. Okay, so how do I prepare myself to tell an important story? I've got practice, I've got research, and just a reminder, the research into a few of the historical figures are going to be on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. So if you're interested in those reels, they're just little teasers about some of the figures that are in my novel that are actual people in history. So again, I'm not black and white. I do call them heroes and villains, but like obviously every real person has highs and lows, good and bad parts. So it's less than 30 seconds. I couldn't do a dissertation in that time. The third piece is choose or narrow down. So this is one that's probably more natural for most people, but really hard for me. So I put this on, how do I prepare myself? So many things are interesting in history. And when I started this current book last 2 Novembers ago, I had an idea of a historical fantasy, and I didn't know when it was going to be, and I didn't know what the main social movement was going to be. And so I had like 4. And in April, when I sort of broke it down and tried a different tack of going, let's try shotgun approach, let's do lots of short stories and see where the most interest or the most tension or heart feels like it is. And I had stuff from like 1770s all the way up to 1910s. I was like, okay, scattershot did not help me choose. But I did need to narrow it down, because you can't have a book that just goes on forever, right? And what I found was I had a lot of stuff in the 1830s to do with reform, to do with abolition, to do with Chartism, and a lot of stuff in the 1880s to do with land reform and the Land League. And what I was trying to get at was some relationships or cross-cutting. It's called cross-cutting cleavages when you have social movements, kind of like intersectionality, but that's the term I learned in grad school, of the Irish and the famine and the migration and the oppression coming into the UK, coming into the US, coming into Canada, going out from Ireland, basically, and the Scots and the Highland clearances and the shift in Scotland's role in the empire, right? So it's a long process, but if you pick a specific moment, you'll be able to highlight some of the interesting ricochets, let's say, between the two populations. So what's fascinating to me is looking at underdogs, is looking at minorities, is looking at people who are finding ways to adapt in their situations to keep on living, to survive, to thrive, to turn around and utilize something that the British Empire didn't know they would. So that's what's interesting to me, and that's why I was trying to decide what decade, at least decide on a decade. So I finally narrowed it down, and this is the hardest thing, right? So in my trilogy, I started in 1822. That sort of came in because of an economics point in history, so that was pretty easy to decide. And then I was like, how long do I skip? So the 1822 to 23 in the first book, 24 to 26 in the next book, and then I had a leap to like 1832 in the third book of the trilogy. It's up to the author, right? What do you want to highlight? You just have to keep people involved with the characters that are going with you. So for this one, I'm starting in 1833, and we're talking about abolition. We're talking about the effects of the Reform Bill. We're talking about financing the slaveholder, I wanted to say reparations, but payback, basically, the huge loan that people have talked about because it was finally paid off in 2015 by the UK government. So that's, I think, since then is when it's been in the back of my mind. This is this incredible story. Like, this has got to be interesting, right? But I'm not a finance person. So I've read a lot of boring bank history, well, not a lot, like pieces here and there, what I can understand, to try to get at what the situation was and how an ordinary person, someone who's not, you know, the peers and the members of parliament and the nobles and whatever, how that would filter down to their experience, how it would affect them. So that's what I was trying to capture in this book. And there's a plan for a series, but we'll see, because I think not until I finalize the first book will I be able to look at and see, okay, now what feels balanced for the next book and the next book, because it's set right now to be interrelated family members and how they're affected in different places and how they find each other. So yes, dispersion and reunion is sort of the theme. So narrowing down for relevance to today. So what did I just talk about? We talked about abolition, which is something that people are talking about today. We talked about the reform bill, which is something that people are discussing in the US today, reforming various branches of the government. We talked about financing debt. That still sounds like a relevant topic to me as well. So one of the things I love about historical fiction is that you're choosing intentionally topics from 200 years ago that still have knock-on effects today, and people have opinions about today, and they didn't know, but they do have opinions about historical events that have been forgotten, perhaps. So that's where I like to connect people's attention and get them like making those connections and going, wait a minute, well, if that's how it started, then why are we doing this today? Or if that's the reason why we do this, like why hasn't that evolved, or etc. So yeah, just getting people to think. I love it. Okay, so that's the third one. Final piece. How do I prepare myself to tell an important story? And this is where Eva's last answer came in. So let me scroll back and read the whole thing aloud, since I didn't. I saved it for later. Passion. I think passion lends to ambition, knowledge, capability, patience, discipline, persistence, and even courage or bravery. I think charisma, if relying on marketing, is the one outlier. Okay, so then you're talking about like a different definition of success. At the end, you're talking about more fame and distribution or dispersion. But the beginning is more the first definition you were talking about completing the novel, right? And so what I would highlight is that the love and passion that I have for the topic isn't necessarily for finance. It isn't for banking history. It isn't for, people who were weavers or small artisans who were knocked out of business. It isn't for the populations who, when you say moved across the sea, then we start getting into family history and relating things that way. But my love and passion that drives me in this subject, in this field, is for, does anybody know? It's the freedom to choose. So when I look at moments in history, what catches my attention is when, let me catch up here, is when freedoms were expanded or contracted, right? So at different moments we've had an expanded franchise. That's great. At different moments we've had deliberate, I want to say the word, but it's going to be, I don't know what effect it's going to have on the video. So people on TikTok at the moment are talking about the Irish famine and saying it's really not a famine, it's a genocide. They had plenty of food, they just exported it and let the people starve. So deliberate choices to restrict freedoms. And what I love and have a passion for is promoting equality and people's freedoms to choose more rather than less. So in the year of our Lord 2024, still relevant, right? Yeah. So women's suffrage is one of those short stories that I did. The Land League and people having security of land tenure so that they're not constantly anxious and fearing for the crops that they planted, not being able to harvest them. This sort of feeling is what I want for everyone. And my Pollyanna self still clings to the hope that we can keep on that road of making more freedoms for more people. It's definitely a up and down sort of struggle, but what I like to highlight and show people as relevant to today is that certain people fight for the things. Here's how they did it. Certain people connected with others to champion this cause, and more freedoms were won. And that's what I love to see. So that's what I love to read about, and that's what I love to research, and that's what I love to write about and share with other people in the fiction context. A little is a lot. I'm not sure. I missed the chance to connect that. Eva says, huzzah, I win. Yes. And Alicia has another question. How do you handle time passage in your novel? I know my novel will focus on a 3-year period. I don't need to mention every single detail in every year, but I don't want to have a big gap. So I think typically you want to have a slow introduction in terms of acquainting people with the details of your time period and setting geographically, and markers about race, about class, about religion, about all those details. There's going to be a lot going on at the beginning, so you want to introduce them sparingly, and that means that the time will slow down for a little bit. And then I think it's going to depend on your plot structure, right? When do events happen, and how do you fit the pacing to those events? So you need to decide where they are, and then how much you want to cover in between to give a slice of life, or how much you want to jump to those things to make it more compact. That would be my off the top of my head. Yes. And Didi says, it's still a famine. And I'm not sure if you mean it's a famine plus a genocide, or it's still, as in today, the same activity is going on, but both apply. Yeah. And Jim says, freedom in general may be defined as the absence of obstacles to the realization of desires. I like this. Except that it's very neutral. It's like almost a passive voice, because obstacles often have names and affiliations and lobbying groups and piles of money like Uncle Scrooge. So I'm all for calling them out and saying they shouldn't have those things while other people are starving. So there we go. And maybe if you read my books, you'll come around to that point of view a little bit more. I don't know. You're welcome, Alicia, of course. Plus. Yes, famine plus genocide. Okay, well, that works. That works. Yeah. So, obstacles often have names. True that. The obstacles often manifest as active repression as well. True that. Exactly. And sometimes, in some contexts, the active repression is hidden. It's the economy. It's the invisible hand. I'm doing weird quotes. I'll stop that. And people want to make it sound passive and make it sound inevitable. And so I think pointing out that there are things baked into the system that we have chosen or had chosen for us, capitalism, that that leans this way, that leans towards active repression. And if we can write stories that help people learn that there are ways to struggle against that, to open up paths for other people, to be more inclusive, to invite in diversity, to encourage equality, those things are what I want. Yeah. Weird quotes, but not GOP weird. Eva gets it. Eva gets it. Anita says the status quo has a lot to answer for sometimes. Yes, that. Exactly. Yeah. And Gareth says the invisible hand is a fantastic thing to include in a historical novel. The dice are loaded, and that is important to push. Yes, totally. I'm so glad I got a master's in economics just so that I can be able to understand this a little better and like push it in under the radar, because maybe that will help people understand it. So, to conclude, and I'm just right on time, that's excellent. How do I prepare myself to tell an important story? I practice so that the writing is up to snuff. See my backlist, check out the couple free chapters I've got on Patreon or Ream. Tell me what you think. I'm good for feedback. I'm learning, and this is the first time I've done it. So this is the time when I do want feedback. You know, when I've done 3 books on audio and think I have it down, it's probably not going to be the best feeling to have someone say, you can't say this word right? Second one, research. If I research enough, I will have the right content and actually be familiar with the guiding forces that are creating the conflict, and that will help people understand why things happen and maybe why they're happening again. The third thing, choose or narrow down. And this took over a year. I had to write lots of stories. I had to narrow it down. I had to visit the places and figure out where and when I wanted, because I couldn't do it all. If you try to do it all, you get split in half. It's like a person riding 2 horses. You only have one ass. I have to constantly tell myself that. So for this one book, this is what I'm focusing on, and hopefully that gets the message in tight, and, you know, that gets the message coherent. That's what I'm trying to get to. And then finally, love and passion for the cause that I'm fighting for, which is equality and inclusivity and more freedoms for more people. So I think if we had a evolution of history, an evolution of man, that would be like where we're headed. But I don't think that is. I think we're more in a cycle. We're more in a cyclical kind of dryer of history. So we'll have to keep fighting, and we'll have to keep sharing the stories that show us how to band together against those inevitable forces. So there we go. This is the Wednesday writer credential live stream. Sunday was the kickoff. Friday, instead of a First Friday productivity stream, I'll be doing a Friday for the Good Fight. So tune in on Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, and I'll be sharing what I'm going to be organizing for the next 3 months. It's going to involve several of my favorite authors, and it's going to have to expand. I'm going to have to read more. Shucks. Historical fiction authors who highlight social movements in their fiction. So I'll be talking to them about what drives them, why they chose to do this, why they chose or narrowed down to this event that they're highlighting, and more. And I'm very excited to get the dates nailed down and have an actual schedule. I won't have a whole schedule by Friday, but I'll definitely be able to share what we'll be talking about. It'll be Fridays into the fall. And yeah, that's like my love, my passion, and I just have a good excuse to have conversations with other authors about it. So what could be better? Let's see. Let me catch up on the chat. I figured that would, yeah. Okay, so dice are loaded. I gotcha. I didn't know. I never use the word die, so Eloise is going to use the phrase, I've only got one ass. Yeah, you can quote me on that. Hi, Emma. Welcome to the end of the Wednesday live stream. Oh, Jim's got a Leonard Cohen quote. Everybody knows the dice are loaded. I'm not a big enough fan to know where that comes from, but I love the quote. We've got some heys and howdies, and Emma says, this sounds awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I was thinking maybe we could do like a panel on Friday, and then life events got away from me, so it's going to be a series going forward, and I'm just going to tell you about it on Friday, but hopefully that will be fun as well. Great chats. I'm excited. So finally, to wrap up this week, after Saturday, I'll be removing those tiers. So if you join as a free follower this week, you'll get the first couple chapters, and you'll get the teaser of the audiobook chapters for Memories Hostage. And after that, you'll have to pay to get those, and then more chapters going forward each month. But I definitely invite you to check out being a free follower on Patreon or Ream. I've got links in the description. Pretty easy. And that will help connect me to you, so that when I have my title and my pub date and my cover, I can send those out, and you can all be happy together with me, because we can celebrate the birth of a new story. Yay! JC is here. Hello, JC. And Gareth says, love that you explore important historical issues through fiction. Yes. I mean, maybe this is like the 13th college degree that I would have wanted to get, you know? Like, this is just exploring it through a career in historical fiction. Why not? So yeah, curiosity, passion, love, all the good things. And thank you so much for being here and watching. If you want to leave an emoji that has something to do with history in the comments afterwards, you don't need to explain it. I will try to guess how your emoji relates to a historical event. Hopefully that will give us some laughs. So that is us for today. Thank you so much for joining. And yeah, I'm very excited to kick off this reader drive and get a fall readers into the fold on Patreon and Ream, and then publish this book in November. So thanks everyone for cheering me on. It's a big help, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody, and happy reading. Bye.